Welcome to this episode of Metal Verbalizers podcast. I am Johan Verbalizer, and today I have a new great band to recommend, Faithxtractor. The band I will verbalize today is called Faithxtractor, and it's a type of death thrash metal band from the USA. However, I personally feel that I can hear some black metal things a little bit here and there as well. So it's kind of like a death black thrash metal band, so to speak. Faithxtractor was, however, first started in 2005, and the band's first demo was released the year after, in 2006. And when it comes to the influence of Faithxtractor, they're mainly influenced by, real-life horrors. They're also influenced by the great unknown and fucking metal, as the band explained it themselves. According to Faithxtractor, if you're a fan of bands such as Grave, Incantation, Morbid Angel, Autopsy, the odds are really high that you will like Faithxtractor. I would however like to add a few bands on top of that, such as Bolt Thrower, Vader, Early Hypocrisy, and to maybe give a little more modern example, so to speak, Skeleton Witch. As I mentioned earlier, I would consider Faithxtractor to be a kind of death thrash band, but similarly to a band like Skeleton Witch, Faithxtractor also has these kind of I guess you could call it like a melodic guitar parts that reminds me a lot of black metal. I also think that the vocals of Skeleton Witch in a song like Beyond the Permafrost, with its type of very dark and very deep sounding growl, reminds me a lot of the vocalist of Faithxtractor. I believe that a song that really shows what I mean with the melodic black metal sounding guitars, and also on top of that, the thrash sound, is this song by Faithxtractor called The Flame of Ritual Death. Listen to this song and I really think that you'll understand what I mean by that. With the kind of melodic black metal sounding guitars, but also the kind of more aggressive thrash sounding guitars. I think that the song The Flame of Ritual Death really shows both those kind of sides pretty clearly. At least I felt so myself. But to kind of summarize that, I suppose it's if you're a big fan of that type of really dark and heavy, deep kind of growl, and also a big fan of very heavy and aggressive thrash metal, then Faithxtractor is pretty much a must listen for you. The band's name Faithxtractor basically means extracting, that's remove someone's faith extractor. Personally, I think it is really cool and a great sounding name, and something that I believe makes the name even cooler, is how the band decided to remove the E in the word extract, extractor, and then pushed the two words together, which makes it into a name consisting of only one word, when it is technically two words, Faithxtractor, but it becomes one word, Faithxtractor. I really like it when bands do things like this with the band name, and when to come up with a name for the band, changing things a little bit and doing something a little creative to really make it stick out. And this is something that I believe that Faithxtractor has done really well here, and we have had other bands on the podcast earlier that have kind of done the same thing when it comes to picking the band's name, taking two words and then push them together to kind of like make one word. And a very reoccurring theme for the band Faithxtractor is the one eye. Like for example, the green one-eyed being on the band's album Raising the World of Myth. And also the one-eyed octopus, I believe, on the band's album Contempt for a Failed Dimension. When Faithxtractor described this theme, the band explained it as in the land of the blind, the one-eyed are kings. Exactly what this means, I guess, is kind of up to your own interpretation, I guess, because the band did not explain this further. So the way that I kind of interpret that is that you kind of like get to have your own interpretation, so to speak. The lyrical themes of Faithxtractor have changed a little bit between the albums. For example, the lyrics in the songs from the first two albums were generally based on conspiracy theories, while the lyrics of the songs released on the other albums are more based on themes such as like dream/nightmarescapes. And speaking about this, I would like to go back a little bit to Faithxtractor's first album titled Raising the World of Myth, which is one of the albums with a more conspiracy theory based theme, and I think that you can pretty clearly see this if you analyze the album art. In the background you can see a couple of pyramids, and the pyramids are often like tied to conspiracy theories regarding aliens and stuff like that. And speaking of which, you can see an impaled alien head in the bottom left. In the background you can also see a group of men in like suits, which I assume is supposed to like refer to something like politicians maybe. Also in the bottom middle you can see a couple of deities from numerous religions, such as Jesus on a cross, Shiva, Buddha, I believe, and Lucifer. So on this album cover we have stuff like aliens, politicians, and religion. And you know, like there are a lot of conspiracy theories and stuff like that tied to all of these groups, you know, and these subjects. As I'm sure that you can guess by now, yes, I do like this album art a lot, and I do believe that it really fits well with the music on the album as well, making it an even better album art, I suppose. Not only that it looks cool, but also that it really fits with the music, which is something that I believe I've mentioned earlier, but I kind of want to mention again. It's like one of the main things for an album art, in my personal opinion, that it should also, it should look cool and it should look interesting, but it should also have like a very clear connection to the music as well. And again, I think that Faithxtractor has really done that very well here with the album art for this album. There is one thing that I want to really mention, and that is that Faithxtractor has actually released their latest album very recently, this year in 2023. In the short term, the band is planning on continuing to promote this release. On top of that, however, Faithxtractor is planning another release as soon as next year in 2024. The band is also planning to start playing live again later this year. Since I'm a big fan of Faithxtractor, I really hope that they will tour somewhere close to me in the near future. I would obviously strongly recommend that you keep your eyes open for Faithxtractor shows near you. And if they are playing near you, I would definitely encourage you to go there and see them live. Because Faithxtractor to me is the kind of band that I am convinced is really, really great live. So it's definitely a band that is kind of like on my bucket list to sometimes see live, because I have a feeling that this band would be really, really great to experience live. If you feel that you need some specific songs to start with, I would probably recommend the song Faithxtractor, which is the song sharing the same name as the band, obviously, and also the first song on the album, Raising the World of Myth, that I talked about earlier. Also emulate the Cal Stare, The Flame of Ritual Death, which is a song I also mentioned earlier, Realization and Hatred, Hatred and Revolution, Vomiting Proclamation, and On Every Breath a Curse. But I believe that Faithxtractor is a band that you can't really go wrong with, you know. If you pick a random song from their discography, it is going to be great. Faithxtractor is definitely a band that is definitely worth exploring, if you ask me. Having said that, I believe this is a great way to end the episode. We at Metal Verbalizers really appreciate that you've been listening to this episode until the end. If you enjoy this episode, then it would be great if you'd like to give us a follow and help us spread the word. This way you can support both us as a podcast, but also the bands that we are verbalizing. We will be back to you next week with more verbalizing.